Alright guys, so I wanted to get a vid out for a long time. Actually had a few drafts for this. It's about how the population buffs apply. Yeah, from different sources and how do they apply and what population type a building in general is giving. It helps you with some accolades. I got a vid out of that. And I explained why you had to destroy some buildings, right? So the basic rule, yeah, when a building is, many buildings can be hit with buffs. Some of them can't, right? Like let's say the ornaments are a building, okay, because you place it, right? The ornaments can't get buffs. The amenities also cannot get buffs. The amenities are these three buildings. There are mods which makes them get buffed if you want that, but I'm actually waiting before adding multiple mods into my gameplay. I wanna wait for the first big patch, which is coming rather slowly, right? But it should be coming in December. Okay, so these guys are not getting any buffs in the vanilla game. So the ornaments either, and the officium also doesn't seem to receive buffs at all. Okay, so keep that in mind, and when you know that, also the first rule for a building when it gets hit with a population buff is that it will always provide the population that it uses as a workforce. You know, when it gives the population buff. This one is not hit with anything. Let me just take another one. This one. See? Even if it doesn't get hit by a buff, you can still hover over it and see what it provides. It provides waders because it's using waders. So basically this is the first rule. If a building has workforce, when hit with a population buff, it will provide that workforce population. Okay. I checked many of these buildings. Let me check a bit the temples, because those I haven't checked. This one can get buffs also, and apparently it's waders. Okay, these are exceptions to the rule because they don't have workforce and they get unlocked yeah, through religion. Yeah, but for the most part, about everything that is here in this tab, in the construction tab, when hit with a population buff, it will provide waders in general. Alright, doesn't matter where you are, waders, or if you are in Latium, it will provide the liberty. Alright, but over here it's waders. Okay, and I wanted to get this out, and I'm using Albion as an example because over here you have multiple populations, right? You have this branch, you have the Smith branch, the Mercator branch, and so on. So it makes for, it is important when you are building up small islands, you know, because you want to know maybe what buildings could I add in order to buff my needed population, especially when you don't have all the research for the villa on yet, you know, so it matters. Now, from what I have gathered, there are still some exceptions over here in the in the trees, in the building trees, in the needs trees for the populations. But from what I've gathered is that if a building gets unlocked by a certain population tier, usually it will provide that population tier. Alright, but remember the first rule, right? If a building uses something, it will provide that something as a workforce, but some buildings do not, and that's what I'm talking about, right? So this should provide waders, for example. Now in the case of the Fanum, because it's shared, I suspect, with the mercators, it only provides waders, but the rest, everything provides smiths, right? The recreation ground doesn't have any workers, it will provide smiths. Let me show you. Right, so the rule stands. Okay. Okay, moving on. Alderman. Alderman. Basically this one has workers, so obviously it will provide alderman because that's who's working. The lower tier will provide waders because that's who's working that. But for the buildings without workers, obviously it will provide alderman if hit with a buff. Okay, this one is unlocked in both sides, and this is another exception. This one only provides nobleman, doesn't provide everything. All right, doesn't provide both or waders, only provides nobleman. So there are some exceptions, but in general the buildings without workers will provide the population which unlocks them. Okay, as a general rule. If they have workers, as I said, they will provide what the worker type. Okay, and this is about it. I wanted to cover this because this is important in some cases, right? When you are trying to boost, and I'm covering this also over here, don't want to make another vid for that. It's somewhat related. So it's about the same principle with who unlocks what. You know, when you talk about religion and knowledge. Okay, so in this case you may notice that I got this, let me hide this a bit, because I have this grammaticus here in the middle of weather houses, and it's not by chance. It's because the grammaticus is unlocked by mercators in Albion and by plebs in the other side. Okay, and because it's unlocked by mercators, it will not apply its knowledge buff to the smiths or to the aldermen. So you have to take that into consideration and not group it with those houses. That's why it's in this corner over here. And alright, so remember these population bonuses only add population and not workforce directly. The workforce is pre-established, and basically waders, as an example, are providing 50% workforce from the total of wader population, right? Keep those things in mind, yeah? So these population buffs only add to the total population on an island, and then the game calculates the actual total workforce per that island. Alright, see you around guys, bye bye bye.